Recording in progress.
Okay, so Shlomo Melech continues on in talking to Chachma, which is really the first 9 chapters of Mishlei, and he begins as follows: Bini, im Torasi al tishkach, if you don't forget my Torah, or Torasi al tishkach, don't forget my Torah, umitzvosai yitzor libecha, and let your heart guard my commandments. Why? Ki orech yomim ushnos chayim. Because they add orech yomim, they add length of days, ushnos chayim, and years of life, vishalom, and peace, yosifulach, will be added to you. Now, before we even go on in the other psukim, which are connected, the next couple of psukim are connected to this, but you just have to understand this opening that he's saying that Torasi al tishkach, and again, applying our methodology of the way that we look at the psukim in Mishlei. So it's Torasi al tishkach, don't forget my Torah, and then my mitzvos yitzor libecha, you should place them in your heart. Also, not forget them. So why choose 2 different words? And there are other words for al tishkach. It could have said in the positive way, tizkor, to remember. So what's being taught us by the Torasi connected to tishkach, to forgetting, and the mitzvosai connected to yitzor libecha. And then in the next pasuk, ki orech yomim ushnos chayim. So orech yomim must be connected to the Torasi al tishkach, that's going to give you lengthening of days, and shnos chayim is mitzvosai yitzor libecha, is going to be when you put it in your heart. V'shalom yosifulach, and then shalom, that's going to be the general thing that's going to be the outcome. So what's going on here? So first of all, in its simplest way, and then we'll talk about it in a little bit deeper, but in its simplest way, we're being told that shnos chayim, that the years of life are the outgrowth of mitzvosai yitzor libecha. Because the difference between Torasi and mitzvosai is Torasi is referring to the positive commandments. The mitzvosai is referring to the negative commandments. And therefore, if you are careful with my positive commandments, which are the things that create and generate a relationship with me, so then what comes out of that is that orech yomim, that your days are lengthened. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get more of them, but what it means is that they're going to be filled with purpose and meaning. The more positive things that we do during a day, then the more those days are meaningful. Days schlep when we're not really doing anything, when we're not really focused on others, when we're not really doing anything that's really productive. We're not doing anything that's really purposeful. So time schleps, but when you're doing something that you invest, and it could be anything, but anything that you invest with importance and value, how much more so if you invest your time in performing mitzvos and doing chasadim and doing kindnesses. So then by definition, if Torasi al tishkach, if you don't forget my positive commandments, then it's going to be orech yomim, it's going to yosifulach, it's going to add on the fullness of days. Mitzvosai yitzor libecha, the mitzvosai is referring to the negative commandments. If you stay away from doing things wrong, if you stay away from transgression, if you stay away from falling down, you stay away from going against the Torah, so then that's going to add years on a person's life. Because going against the Torah technically takes away years from a person's life. Technically it takes away, when a person goes against the Torah, so then a person shortens their life because a person is disconnecting themselves from the source. And therefore, what's the antidote to that? If mitzvosai yitzor libecha, if you keep them in your heart, so then you're going to see shnos chayim. You're going to see more years. You're going to see a longer life, a physically longer life, because the things that would cut off life, the thing that would cause misa, that would cause death, that would cause kares, would cause extirpation, things that would shorten a person's life. So then those things that would dictate that, you know what, a person has really sort of lost their ability to be able to be here in this world. You know, we often ask, why is it that on certain sins we're told that a person gets killed? That if you do this transgression, mois you must, then you'll be put to death. Or in some commandments, there is a thing called misa b'dei shemayim, death by the hands of heaven. Because once a person, or there's a thing called kares, of extirpation, of cutting ourselves off from the Jewish people. Because once a person in their lifetime has said that I cut myself off from the source, so then the source, which is Torah, is their very life's breath. It's the reason why we continue living, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us chance after chance. Now, it doesn't mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has decided on a person who passes away that that's it. The person's disconnected. There are other reasons why a person dies. A person's fulfilled their mission and task in life. A person has done everything that they were sent here to do. They have fulfilled their mission. But there are situations where a person, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, looks at a person and says, you know, you've cut yourself off. And therefore, in order to be able to ensure that we don't cut ourselves off, when we're careful not to transgress and not to show really a disdain for life and a disdain for the purpose of life, when we're mitzvosai yitzor libecha, so then that adds shneis chayim. It adds a robustness to life. But why is that? Why is it that it doesn't say if Torasi you do, umitzvosai you do, it says if Torasi al tishkach, you don't forget. And mitzvosai yitzor libecha, if you remember to stay away from transgression, you remember not to do transgressions. So why is shikha, forgetfulness, and zikaron and remembrance, why are they in part of this equation? It should be about doing. If you do positive things, then your life is going to be amazing. If you stay away from negative things, your life is going to be amazing. But it doesn't say that. It says that if you remember things, and if you don't forget things. So I'll tell you, I think we first have to identify what is shikha, what is forgetfulness, and what is zikaron, what is remembrance. You know, we say that God remembered Noach. Vayizkar Elokim es Noach after the flood. What do you mean remembering? Open your eyes, he's sitting right in front of you. Right, usually when we use the word zikaron, it's like pulling up something from the back, something that we've forgotten, and then pulling it up and putting it back in the front of our minds. But what are you talking about? God doesn't forget. No, he's sitting right in front of him. What does it mean, Vayizkor Elokim es Noach? We have a concept called Zecher Lemikdash, remembrance of the temple. What does that mean, that we have an obligation to do certain things as a Zecher, as a remembrance for the temple? We have to remember Amalek. Zechor es asher asa lechem Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to us. Zocher es Yom HaShabbos. We have to remember the Sabbath day. Rosh Hashanah, we say that three sections of Musaf, Malchus, Shofras, Zichronos. We talk about God's kingship. We talk about the blowing of the shofar, and we talk about Zichronos, remembrances. What are remembrances? God doesn't forget. So what does it mean, remembrances? So I'll tell you an amazing thing. We are told that Lacher Yud Beis Chodesh, after 12 months, Hames Nishtakach Min Halev, the dead are forgotten from the heart. Nishtakach, they're forgotten from the heart. Now, anybody who has lost anyone knows that long after 12 months, there is still a connection to that person. The person's not been forgotten. We even say Yizkor, to remember that person. We say Yizkor 4 times a year. So what does that statement mean by a rabbi? Zames nishtakach min halev. That there is a certain connection. And this really talks about parents and children. It doesn't talk about spouses. It doesn't talk about parents to their children, to losing their children, or to siblings losing each other. But when a child loses a parent, after Yud Beis Chodesh Nishtakach Min Alev, that burning connection that existed goes into a different place. There's always a memory, but that deep burn that exists, that no longer exists. That changes on the yahrzeit. Now, what's fascinating is that's only for a child to a parent. It's not true of a spouse. It's not true of a child. It's not true of a sibling, because that can be a lifetime. And in truth, that's the reason why there's only shloshim in those relationships. In the relationship to a parent, there's Yud Beis Chodesh, there's 12 months. But when it comes to a spouse, when it comes to a child, when it comes to a sibling, there's only 30 days of mourning. 30 days of mourning is the biblical model of mourning. Anything past that, there is no boundary to that. You can't say that it's mugbal to 12 months and that there's going to be this change after 12 months. That's only in a relationship of dor holech v'dor ba. A generation comes and a generation goes. Shikha really means, the concept of forgetting means on some level a certain disconnection. When it comes to a parent, it's a disconnection that allows you to continue to be able to live with the memory of that person, with the feeling, the good feeling of the connection to that person, but that main connection ends after 12 months. Because the concept of shikha means a concept of disconnection. We learned in this past week's parasha that when you're in a field and you're gleaning the field and you go past some of the wheat and you forget to cut it down, you're not allowed to go back and to go and cut that wheat. You forgot it, you passed it, you have to leave it. And that gets left for the poor. Because what you've done is you've disconnected yourself from that past. You've disconnected yourself from that item. It's called, the mitzvah is called shikha, it's called forgetfulness, because you're disconnecting. Which means, by definition, what is zikaron? What is memory? What is remembrance? It's connection. That's why we say yizkor, to ensure that on the appropriate level we keep that connection. That's why we have a zecher lemikdash, why we have remembrance for the temple, so that we keep that connection. That's why we say that God remembers. He's zocher kol hanishkachos. He remembers everything that not would be forgotten, but would cause disconnection. Even though there's so much disconnection, things that we do that cause disconnection between us and God, God is still zocher. He still remembers us, and He's still connected to us. Vayizkar Elokim es Noach. God remained connected to Noach even though the rest of the world was destroyed. That's what the word zechira means. And that's what the pasuk is telling us. B'ni Torasi al tishkach. Don't disconnect yourself from Torah. It's not a question of don't stop doing good things. It's not about doing. It's about your feeling. It's about your connection. It's about your internals, your insides. Al tishkach. Don't disconnect yourself. U'mitzvosai yitzor libecha. And from my mitzvos, can remain constantly attached to them. Because what's the yield? The yield is a long life. The yield is a fulfilling life. I've mentioned that, and briefly, but that when we say Zochreinu L'chaim, Melech Chafetz B'chaim, on Rosh Hashanah, we have to understand that what we're asking for, especially in that first sentence, when we say it's Zochreinu L'chaim, in the section that it's in the Shmona Esrei, which is in the first bracha, it can't be a request. It can't be a request, because you're not allowed to make personal requests in that section of the Shmona Esrei. What we're recognizing is Zochreinu L'chaim, that we want to declare ourselves. In that bracha, of the first bracha of Shmona Esrei, we're declaring who we are. We're the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We're telling God that's who we identify with. We identify with our Zeda, our Elta Zeda, our Ura Zeda. We identify with them. That's who we are. We're the B'nai Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I might not look like one God. I might not always act like one, but I want you to know who I identify with. I identify with them. Elokei Avosenu, Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. And then I say, Zochreinu L'chaim, I also identify with life, God. But what kind of life am I identifying with? Zochreinu. Connect us to life. What kind of life? Life that is filled, that our days are filled with meaning. Not years. We're not asking for years. We're not remembering a connection to years. We're talking about a fulfilling life. B'sefer Chayim Bracha V'Shalom, we recognize that at some point we're going to die. When we ask Hashem for writing us in the Sefer Chayim Bracha V'Shalom, in the book of life and of peace and of blessing, what we're asking is the kind of life that we're asking for, even if we're only going to get 1 minute of it in the next year. But it should be Bracha V'Shalom, it should be filled with blessing, and it should be filled with peace. It should be meaningful. It should be fulfilling. It should be satisfying days. That's what Shlomo Melech is reminding us, that we have to remain connected to Torah, connected to mitzvos, because ki orech yomim, that's the thing that fills our days with meaning. And when our days are filled with meaning, ultimately what do we have? Even amongst and amidst all the turmoil in our lives, we have shalom yosifulach. Peace will increase for us. Because what is shalom? Shleimus. It's wholeness. The way to make ourselves whole is to attach ourselves to the positive commandments, to detach ourselves, but in other words, to be cognizant and aware, and ultimately attached to the negative commandments so that we remain attached to God, because that's the way to give ourselves a beautiful life. And shalom yosifulach, and ultimately all that's going to bring is just peace and tranquility to our lives. Okay, I'm actually going to stop here today. It's my challenge that not everybody is here today, so I'm going to have to on some level repeat this tomorrow. But anyway, we're going to have to talk about it again tomorrow because I want to try to come to some practical solution. I just wanted to, I guess the cat was let out of the bag last night a little bit. I think that many people knew that I was going to be leaving Modi'in. The truth is, in another week, we're going to be moving to a place called, well, actually, we're moving a little bit above Mishkafayim, but to Ramat Bet Shemesh Aleph. But we will be, I have a shul that I started working in already since April. We go every other Shabbos to the shul. And also, I'm mashkiach ruchni in a yeshiva called Ashreinu, and also teaching in a seminary in Yerushalayim, and school starts tomorrow. So I was delaying delaying the inevitable, but only because I was hoping upon hope that I would be able to, in school during school hours, to be able to continue giving the shiur. But as the schedule looks like, that's going to be difficult. So I'm going to raise two things. I can 1 day a week on Tuesdays. I don't have classes on Tuesdays. So Tuesday for sure, I can continue giving the class. I'm happy to do it at 40 minutes. We can do more than we normally would. That's one option. The other option is to pick. I have three options, and I really would love to hear from people. The second option is to pick a different time. Given my schedule in Yerushalayim, and then I'm also teaching at night in the yeshiva. So given my schedule, that I believe, and let's assume that the answer that it's yes, that I could do 7 o'clock at night, which is not really either 6:45 or 7, which is not, I realize, not a great time, but that's option number 2. And option number 3 is once a week live class. That's on Tuesday, and then from Sunday, Monday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, I would do the class, but do it as a podcast, and then put it up on it would be available on the YouTube channel. It would be the same class. It wouldn't be in front of people. It wouldn't be a live audience, but it would be the same thing, and I would be. That's my my option number 2. Option number 1 would be a different time if we could find one, knowing that that's probably very, very difficult. So my option number 2 would be once a week live, and then continuing the class, doing it on podcasts. So you just need to get onto YouTube. That's all, and it's all available right there. And then option number 3 would be just to do once a week, and that I'm not a big fan of. But I want to hear from people, and I realize that I'm never going to find a time or a method to do this that's going to be okay for everybody. So I'm gonna try to take the most common, and then I'll make my decision based on that. What do they call it? The highest common denominator, and I'll try to base my decision on that. It's a tremendously, I was dreading this conversation, and it's a tremendously painful thing for me because, I'm generally in love with Torah, but I'm particularly in love with this class. And it's it's been really an amazing experience, and it doesn't have to end, which is my offers and options. That certainly once a week, and I would much rather see it go every day of the week. Continuing the class once a week, being actually live, and the other days of the week it would come in on a podcast. Those are my suggestions, and you don't have to feed back to me now, because I actually have to get to school. But you don't have to feedback to me now, but feedback to me either on the Zoom, or you can WhatsApp me. My WhatsApp number, if you have pens, my WhatsApp number is not my cell phone number. It's my American cell phone number. It's a 619. I'll put it up on the chat. 619, which means you have to put a 1 in front of it. 619-913-2696. That's my WhatsApp, my regular WhatsApp. There you go. And my email, which many of you have. Easy to remember, RJ from LJ, Rabbi Jeff from La Jolla, at AOL.com. Maybe it's not so easy to remember because you don't realize that La Jolla is spelled La Jolla. So it's LJ. So it's RJ from LJ, Rabbi Jeff from La Jolla at AOL.com. Okay, so those are the 2 ways to contact me. Or on the Zoom chat. That's a little bit public, but you certainly can do it there on the Zoom WhatsApp. And we'd love to hear feedback from everyone. Either, this has been a great run, I think it's time to end now, or option 1, option 2, whichever whichever you think is good for all of us. And but don't put me in the equation. In other words, I'm great with doing the class every day. First of all, learning Mishlei has been amazing for me. I've learned it 4 years ago. I gave a class of Mishlei, but I'm approaching it from different commentaries now, and it's like a whole new book. So for me, it's not too much of a burden. So that really we have to decide what's best for every person and what's best for the class. Okay, life continues moving on and moving in ways that we never even imagined. So I never thought that it would be this way, but it's good in this way too. So and the rest of the week I should be okay. This week, I should be okay tomorrow and Thursday. The boys are first coming tomorrow, so I don't think that I have to be there for davening yet. I can still be here and then go afterwards, and that's tomorrow. Wednesday and Thursday we'll see, but tomorrow there'll still be class, and I think I should be able to make out the whole week. Okay.
Okay, Rabbi, 2 things, please.
Yes.
Your perseverance is laudable, and I think I'm speaking for the whole group and wanting to continue.
Okay.
Secondly, there are very few participants on today, so maybe you should write a message to the group so that everybody gets the message you just relayed to us.
I'll put it on the Zoom, but not everybody's on the Zoom. So that's why I'm probably going to do it again tomorrow. And I think that I'll start off with this tomorrow so that we can start off with a little discussion and then, plan out the rest of the plan out where we're going next.
Perfect. Thanks, Rabbi. Shkoya.
I'll put it on the WhatsApp. Yeah, on the Zoom WhatsApp. Yeah, but not everybody is on that. So, but I'll do that, and you feel free to share it if you know that there are people that are not on the WhatsApp. So then just copy it and send it off. Send it to other people. Okay.
Mazal tov on,
Thank you.
on your new positions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rabbi.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, but
Bye,
again,
guys.
it's not goodbye. I mean, first of all, we still have tomorrow, but we're gonna do it some way or the other. Either once a week or every day with on the what's called on the YouTube. Okay, we'll speak tomorrow. Everyone should have a beautiful, wonderful, amazing day.
Thank you. You too, Rabbi.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Take care.